Welcome to the Dealmaker Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today we have none other than Mr. David Greene. David Greene is a former police officer and the host of the David Greene Show under the Real Talk Real Estate Network. He's the author of the best-selling books, Long Distance Real Estate Investing, Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, Repeat, Pillars of Wealth, Better Than Cash Flow, and the top Producer Trilogy, Sold, Skill, and Scale. David is a nationally recognized authority on real estate, appearing on BiggerPockets, CNN, Forbes, HGTV, and more. He owns Coast to Coast Real Estate, Coast to Coast Getaways, and the One Brokerage. With a career built on integrity, market insight, and a client-first mindset, David leads the company with a commitment to innovation, teamwork, and long-term value creation. Outside the office, he invests personally in long-term rentals, short-term rentals, and flips. He supports industry-focused education, highlighting the good, bad, and the ugly of real estate. His approach to leadership combines data-driven decision-making with people-centric culture, ensuring the company not only performs in markets today, but is built for tomorrow. Mr. Greene, welcome to the show.
Jason, that's quite the intro. You made me sound really good there.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, what's crazy is your resume is so deep that I could have spent an hour on your intro. So that is, I guess, the condensed version. So, yeah, but I'm excited to be here, man, and to have you here. And I shared offline, before I turn it over to you, but I'm going to do it publicly as well. And I know you hear this everywhere you go, but you were a critical piece of my journey early on. I was in a corporate career like many people. Started obsessing over the BiggerPockets podcast, and you were in my ear, a couple times a week, and following your leadership and your guides and your guests and how you structure those conversations, it gave me a really good foundation to start building and ultimately into the BRRRR strategy. And we went on to BRRRR 100 plus properties through your strategies, and your teachings of that. So I personally want to thank you on behalf of myself and everybody else that you've influenced in this audience. So
thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's good to know that somebody out there was listening.
Oh yeah, I think you know that, but and I appreciate also your humility to all this too. So you've built what you've built with a lot of humility, and that resonates, and I thank you for that. But you are now sitting, we are only about 30 minutes apart, but we were not able to do this in person because once we get wrapped up, I have to go to a ball game. But you are in Virginia, your first time out here, making kind of the run of the circuit of the networking events and stuff like that. So how's it going so far?
I was surprised how much I like it here. I don't know what I was expecting, but I didn't expect this much greenery. I didn't expect to see this much like blue collar kind of a mindset. I was at the gym working out today and just thought, these guys are getting after it. These are hard workers out in this area.
Right. Yeah, that's what we do, man. But not everybody, but yeah, it's a good area. It's home to me. I've been here my whole life. So I'm obviously partial to it, but it's good to have you here. You're going to be Friday speaking at our local event, and we're excited about that as well, and appreciate you making the time for it. But what we're going to do today, David, is we're going to talk about, and this is a topic you've kind of been talking on while you're doing these different events, but on like your top 10 ways to make money in real estate today, in today's market. So we're going to kind of go through that on this podcast, and I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do your thing, my man.
Yeah, so this came from me recognizing a lot of investors are taught how to analyze real estate very simple. They're taught to basically determine the cash on cash return out of the rent they think they're going to get the first year. And then they're given a green light or a red light. Is it good or is it bad? That's all they look at. And as real estate has become increasingly more competitive, it's harder and harder to get deals. You got more people coming into real estate as their full-time gig when it used to be a side thing that people had jobs and they also invested in real estate. Now everyone wants to do it full-time. You've got education that's blowing up the airwaves. Every time you turn on YouTube, there's some new person fighting for attention to tell you how to do it. And you have inflation that you can't beat with traditional investment vehicles. If you're not investing in real estate, you're just falling behind. There is no other option. So we've seen this mad rush into the world of real estate investing from everybody that wants to get a piece of it. And I realized that you can't sort of have a simplistic view and just look for one thing and just keep looking for it till you get it. That was kind of the advice we gave in 2012, where you just had to put the work in, but it was out there. You had to go find it. Now you kind of got to make that deal, or you got to see an angle that other people are missing. You got to play the long game. So I wrote this book, and I came up with 10 ways that real estate makes you money. And I advise people to do what I call putting on the real estate goggles. You got to look at a deal or look at a house and say, out of these 10 ways, where's opportunity? And if I could stack enough of them together, I can make a deal make sense that might not have made sense if I was just looking for one thing.
Yeah. I like that because it opens up the mind of, like you said, and when I came heavy into the market, it was like 2018 when I really dove in, and it wasn't hard to find a deal, and it wasn't hard to find a deal that made sense and worked out. You almost had to be, you know, you have to do something terribly wrong for a deal to go so far south that you lose money. And so fortunately, I was able to take advantage of that. But when the tide starts going out, I mean, the cliche is you see who's swimming naked, and a lot of people were swimming naked. And um, probably due to a lot of your teachings and others that were preaching the same thing. When I was looking at these deals, I was looking at them. Yeah, this is the one thing I want to do, the BRRRR strategy. But I had 2, 3, 4 other options if that didn't work out, kind of in the clip, and that's what you're speaking on. 10 different ways to look at it. So, what are those 10 ways? Let's dive into it.
All right, so there's 3 groups. The first is the cash flow group, then you got the equity group, then you got the miscellaneous group. In the cash flow group, you've got natural cash flow, which is what everybody understands of when we look at how we evaluate a deal for cash flow. You've got forced cash flow. You've got market appreciation cash flow, and then you've got buying cash flow. So natural or cash flow is when you look at a deal and say, hey, as it stands right now, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. I could rent it out to a single family as a single family rental for $1,400. What's my numbers look like? Really simple. You take your income, you subtract your expenses, you get a number that's hopefully positive, you multiply it by 12, and then you divide that by whatever you put in the deal. That gives you a cash-on-cash return. The problem is that's not your return on investment. That's just your cash-on-cash return. There's a lot of things that go into your ROI. For instance, Jason, you own some real estate. Do you see the rent stay the same every single year, year after year?
Nope.
They tend to change, right? Nope. They usually go up. So why do we analyze a deal for what the rents are the first year we buy it if we plan on owning it for 30 years? It's just simple. A lot of the time this comes from the gurus that want to get you to pay for their course, and they got to make you feel like, hey, this is so easy, a baby could do it. So I'm going to give you this really simple understanding. And then you meet some multifamily apartment complex investors that it's a little more complicated. They're raising money from people. The SEC is overseeing what they're doing. And they use something called an internal rate of return, or IRR. And they factor in all these other things, like we think rents are going to bump X% over the next 5 years every year. We think expenses can be brought down if we implement this change in insurance. We can add additional income to the apartment complex through vending machines or paid storage or parking. They have all these little tools that they use to identify stuff. Well, I just said, we should start incorporating that into our single family deals also. See if that doesn't make the deal seem like it makes sense. So natural cash flow is what everybody already kind of knows. It's not bad, but there's a lot more than that. Then you have what I call forcing cash flow. Forcing cash flow is where you look at a deal and say, all right, there's an ADU in that backyard. If I spend X amount of money and I can get that ADU up and running, I can rent that thing out for $1,100. I can rent the main house out for $2,000. Now this deal brings in $3,100. I feel a little better about it than I did if it only was going to be making $2,000. There's ways that you can manipulate properties to improve their cash flow. You can add basements. You can add sunrooms and turn them into studios. There's the ADU element. Sometimes you just split that house in two. And you're like, hey, this side's going to go here. This side's going to go there. Now I got new cash flow. You've also got ways to improve cash flow where you would change the usage. You bought it as a single family rental, but it's right there on the beach and you could make it a short-term rental. You could triple or quadruple the money. Some people don't even think about this because all they've been trained is to see natural cash flow. So when you're looking at a deal, I advise people to say, can I force cash flow? How do I force cash flow? Where would I force cash flow? Apartment complex owners have been doing this for years. They look at it and think, I'm going to bump rents. They're at $800. Market comps are at $1,100 or $1,200. I'm going to go in and I'm going to push rents, or I'm going to fix it up a little bit, then push rents. And they add millions of dollars of equity to their properties. They have these goggles. I want residential people looking at it the same way. And then you have what I call buying cash flow. That doesn't super apply to properties, but it is a way you make money in real estate, where you can invest in REITs. You can lend your money out. You can give your money to a hard money lender, and they'll go lend it out for you, and you can make a return on it. You can invest in bonds. All of these are ways that you put your capital into a deal in order to get a return. And I call that buying cash flow, because you're just spending money to get it in return. And then the last one is called market appreciation cash flow. And this is a way of looking at an area and making an intelligent decision on where to put your capital. So I'm assuming you've lived in Virginia for a while. Does every city in Virginia appreciate in rent growth the same way?
Absolutely not.
So what's some areas where rents are kind of stagnant?
Probably the Hopewell, Virginia is a good one for us. It's very solid, but rents have remained stagnant for 10 years.
All right. And then where have you seen rents going up?
Certain areas of Chesterfield County, which is very close to Hopewell.
Okay.
So
I would, without knowing anything about Chesterfield versus the first one you mentioned, Hopewell,
yeah.
I would imagine that Chesterfield has less opportunity to build. Either it's a smaller space, or the city says, nope, we don't want you to add property. It's harder to expand the supply. And I would bet that the wages are higher in Chesterfield than they are in Hopewell. Okay.
Correct.
That's a very predictable formula that you can apply to different parts of the country to decide where to put your money. Market appreciation cash flow is a way of saying, look, I know if I buy it today, what it'll cash flow. But I'm not buying it for today. I'm buying it for a long time. So I want to put my money where I think that the rents are going to increase the most. And some deals don't look great on paper. Hey, I'm paying market value for this house, or there's not a great opportunity to force some cash flow here, but man, this location is amazing. I think in 10 years, rents are going to be double what they are right now. Certain deals can look good that wouldn't have looked good on that spreadsheet when you factor in, is this area likely to see increased market appreciation cash flow? And I've got a whole chapter on the book on how you look for constricted supply with increased economic opportunity to identify these areas and put your capital there. And then we've got the equity group. So we got 4 methods in the equity group, and they're similar to the cash flow. You can buy equity, you can force equity, there's natural equity, and then there's market appreciation equity. Natural equity is just what happens when the dollar is devalued because real estate becomes more expensive. If your dollar becomes worth less money, you need more of it to buy the real estate, which forces the real estate to become more expensive. And what I advise people to do is pay attention to the things the government does that makes the dollar less expensive, primarily when they print more of them. So this is quantitative easing. This is macroeconomic policy. Anytime you hear some talking head on CNBC or Fox Business News say economic stimulus, quantitative easing, the government is buying bonds, any program the government's going to put together, you know that that's going to lead to inflation within real estate. So what I advise people to do is buy more of it and more expensive real estate when you see money being printed. That's going to lead to properties becoming worth more. If you see the opposite of this, quantitative easing, I can't remember the fancy word for it, but you're pulling money back into the government instead of putting it out there, quantitative tightening. The deal might need to be better for you to make sense of deploying capital at that time. Maybe you don't go put all your money into the market if you see that it's actually going the opposite way. Maybe you see that there's a lot of layoffs that are coming, or people aren't going to be able to afford their rent. Maybe you pull some of your capital back. You say, hey, this isn't the time because I'm not going to get as much natural equity. Then you've got buying equity. We've heard this phrase forever. This is when they say you got to buy it right, or you make your money when you buy. They're just referring to buying equity, that you control the price you pay for that asset. And so real estate's one of the unique things that if you go buy an asset worth $200,000, but you only paid $130 for it, you just bought yourself $70,000 of equity. And that is a thing to look at in every deal. How much equity can I buy with this thing? And then you've got forcing equity, which is exactly what it sounds like. Can I improve the property, which is usually make it bigger or make it better so that it's worth more? And I like to look for ways to buy and force equity at the same time. If I could buy myself some crap hole that needs a lot of work, but I know how to do the work and I can get a really good deal on it, that's where you get those big pops. This is what home flippers look for. This is the BRRRR method. You're sort of manufacturing wealth for yourself via these two equity methods. And the last one is market appreciation equity. This is the same as the cash flow. Not every area is going to appreciate at the same route. If you buy in a constricted supply, high income, desirable area, nice views, by the beach, in a part of town people want to be in, whatever the case may be, some unique amenity that's hard to find, the odds of that property appreciating are significantly more than if you buy in some area no one wants to be, where they could just build 1 million houses because there's tons of land and there's not a lot of economic opportunity. Well, if you're just looking at natural cash flow and you're analyzing these two deals, you don't care where they are. You just care what that spreadsheet tells you. Let's engage a little more here and think about where are values likely to rise? Where are rents likely to rise? Where is opportunity likely to be found? Prioritize those areas. And then look at the deal itself. What can I do with this thing? Can I force cash flow? Can I force equity? Can I buy equity? What is my actual strategy to fix this property and make it worth more? And then the last segment here is kind of the cherry on the top. And this is going to be the loan pay down. Isn't talked about very often, but you make money in real estate that way. The tax savings, not always talked about, but you make money in real estate that way. And then the bonus method, which is you can work in real estate. You can make money with what you know about real estate, actually doing that 4-letter word of work. You mentioned that you do some like hard money lending. You help finance people's real estate. I'd put that under this category. This is the bonus method. You know how real estate works. You know how to look at deals. Well, shoot, why are you going to stop at that? You might as well put some capital into play, and you can make wiser decisions than someone else because you know what a good deal should look like. And if you got to take it back, you understand the 10, so you know what to do with it. People can be real estate agents. People can be loan officers. People can be hard money lenders. People can be title officers. People can be property managers. There's a lot of need in our industry for good folks. We don't need everyone with a brain to become an investor. There's some support services that could definitely use an investor perspective. That's what we do at Coast Getaways. I'm like, okay, I own short-term rentals. I know how I got to adjust pricing. I know how to keep the cost low on maintenance. I know how to make sure that property is being occupied. I already got a bunch of staff that are overseeing my properties, that are responding to guests and marketing and getting good pictures. I should do this for other people too. It's not really any extra work. I'm adding these deals in and I already got the staff. But now someone that has a property can have it managed by someone that owns properties themselves. And when you have a well go out at your cabin, I'm going to fix that thing for $1,200 when some other property manager is going to spend $7,000 because the well company told them, well, that's what it's going to cost. And you're going to eat that. So that's an example of why I'm a big fan of the bonus method. You should be working in real estate if you're investing in real estate. And then the other two, I have a whole chapter dedicated to the loan pay down. This is ways that you can accelerate how quickly you pay your property down, how quickly you can ramp up your amortization schedule to get to where bigger chunks of your payment are going against the principal than the interest. Techniques like recasting loans that aren't talked about very often. Even using HELOCs of certain properties to buy the rate or to offset how much money you're paying towards the other one to get into that chunk very quickly where you're paying more of your principal down and then shift your attention back to paying off that HELOC or flipping something and paying the HELOC off there. We never talked about this for years on the podcast because rates were 3%. So why worry about it? But we saw them get up to 8%, 9%, 10%. Some people were at 12% depending on the type of loan they were getting. And when your rate's that high, these techniques are actually very significant ways to save you money. And then there's a whole chapter dedicated to the tax savings of real estate, straight line depreciation, accelerated depreciation, what it is to become a real estate professional. Now, I'll wrap up that whole monologue by saying it's not just knowing the 10, it's knowing how to combine the 10 to make something good. All right, you got all these ingredients in your fridge, but how do you put them together to make a dinner that you're going to like? So things like working in real estate can make you a real estate professional. That can make you eligible for accelerated depreciation. That's going to offset all that income that you made doing a really good job working in real estate. But you got to figure out where you're going to put that money. Well, do you have a long time horizon? Maybe you focus on market appreciation cash flow over time. Is it a short time horizon? Maybe you focus on buying equity or forcing equity. Do you like wholesaling? You're going to probably focus on buying equity more. Do you love design? Maybe forcing equity is going to be more up your alley. But if you know all 10, when someone says, what do you think about this deal? You have the goggles to look at that thing and see if there's opportunity, if there's not. And that takes away the anxiety. That takes away the fear. That takes away what I call relying on hopium. Man, I hope this deal works. I really hope it works, right? I've had that feeling before, and that's what you get when you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I was a cop for 10 years in the Bay Area, not a friendly area to cops. You learn pretty quick that you may think you're a tough guy, but if someone's trained in martial arts, you're not as tough as you think you are, right? And I had this fear every time I put hands on someone that what if he's better than me? I hope he doesn't know what he's doing. I hope I can outmuscle this guy or whatever. Well, I trained a little bit, and I started to notice there was things like trained fighters control distance. They don't tense up super hard. They keep their body relaxed. They don't burn energy. Trained fighters assume like a bladed stance and they're really loose. The minute I'd see that, I'm like, nope, I don't want anything to do with this guy. Taser's coming out. We're not playing that, right? I'm not risking it on this person. And so my anxiety level as a cop went way down when I knew this is a good deal or this is a bad deal for me in this case of making this arrest. So I would love for more people to feel more comfortable and confident buying real estate, knowing they made the right decision, planning for their retirement, planning for their future, and continue working jobs. Jason, we need people in this country with a strong work ethic to contribute every day more than we've ever had. There's been so much talk about buy NFTs, buy cryptocurrency, quit your job, go do this thing. Don't work for anyone else. Work for yourself. And then they go working for themselves and they're just as lazy for themselves as they were working for someone else. We need people to continue working and not rely on the government for their retirement. I want them buying real estate, but I don't know that I need some 25-year-old kid to own 45 houses in his first 18 months because he just sprinted into this thing saying, well, I never want to work again. That creates some of the calamity we got right now, where foreclosures are going to be on the market. I'm sure you're seeing some of it.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. And what you're talking about or describing right there at the end is like a lot of people that you're talking about the 25-year-old that just blitzes it. Well, he's got a lot of bad habits that he's not aware of. So the bucket is leaking water and he's just adding more water to it. That's not going to be sustainable. So you gotta work on patch the hole before you start filling the bucket, right? And so that's kind of what you're speaking to there, man. This 10 obviously, I'll give you an example of talking about forcing cash flow and forcing appreciation or forcing equity. One of y'all's early podcast, or when I was listening to it, y'all hit, and this is a common idea now, but you hit me with go find a house that's two bedrooms, and it's over like 1,100 square feet. There's probably space in there to get a third bedroom in there.
Yes.
So that's all. I started filtering everything to that.
That's forcing it.
And dude, when I was in the particular market we were in, and we just went on a run. Nobody else was looking at these properties. And so I have my realtors in the areas, my wholesalers, and go find me this exact 1,100 plus square feet, 2-bedroom. And we were able to come in there. A lot of them had the room to put in a third bedroom, and we ended up jacking up the equity, getting more cash flow. It was a good deal that nobody else is looking at. So that kind of speaks to what
that's it. That's a way. So we told people what to do, but we didn't kind of have a framework of how to explain what we were doing, right?
Yeah.
Now that's called forcing equity. I'll give you another example, how to buy equity that maybe people haven't heard of before. A lot of times when a realtor puts their property on the market, which I know because I was an agent, now I'm a broker, I have this perspective because of the bonus method, where the MLS says how many square footage is the house, and it gives them the option to click a button and import the data from the tax records. Well, that's what about 99.9% of them do, is they click that button, and it goes, this is an 1,100 square foot house because the tax records show that. Well, maybe someone added a 600 square foot addition to that house, but they didn't go tell Uncle Sam because they didn't want to be reassessed and pay higher taxes. I would expect that to be the case. So sometimes you got a 1,700 square foot house that shows 1,100 square foot, or a 2,800 square foot house that shows 2,200 square feet. And the realtors are all, I don't want to get in trouble. They don't really know what the law is or what the law is not. Most of them are lazy. So they just know it's safer for me if I just say whatever the tax records say. Well, everybody else is putting a search together that says, I want X amount of bedrooms or I want X amount of square feet. And that property could be getting missed by a lot of other buyers. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller sitting there like, why aren't we getting showings? I would have thought we'd be doing better. Maybe we got to drop the price. Well, if you're comparing that house to all the other 1,100 square foot houses or whatever, and they're dropping the price, you're like, that's, it's not a great price on an 1,100 square foot house, but it sure is on a 1,900 square foot house. So another thing that I would look for when I was looking on the MLS is discrepancies like that. Is this house bigger than what they're telling me because it's been adjusted? And my eyes got trained, these goggles, to notice the obvious signs of an addition. The stucco's different, the siding's different, the inside of the house looks different in that one picture than it did in other ones. One of the things that I teach people, as simple as this sounds, is stop hitting the button that goes to the right when you get on Zillow. You don't want to see the front of the house, the other front of the house, the driveway of the house, the entryway, the front room, the kitchen. Go backwards. I want to see the unfinished basement. I want to see the ADU in the back full of spider webs that the realtor thinks is the problem and they're trying to hide. I want to see, like what we just said, the addition that's kind of ugly, you could tell from the back, or the covered patio that could easily be turned into more square footage of that house. When you have these goggles, you will recognize those opportunities that private equity misses because there's no way for them to use their fancy formulas and people to go look for them.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And you talked a little bit, kind of the miscellaneous bucket, and that is, like you mentioned, us being in the lending space. Well, what gives us confidence to be there and kind of vertically go along with everything else was we were borrowers of that money for so many years, right? And so we're able to identify, a lot of the lenders we were using, they were not investors, and we're able to identify kind of some of the red tape we would have to go through that's really not necessary if you know what you're doing as a lender, and find opportunity to kind of bring something to the market a little bit different than other lenders. And we're okay if we lend on it right. We're okay. We're not a loan to own operation, but if we have to take properties back in our backyard, no problem. We've had to do that, and we buy them from the fund and we put them in our portfolio every day. And that was the best integration into our buy and hold real estate business that aligned with it, but also found a much better income source because it's real cash flow coming in from these loans. And then the depreciation and all that, when I left my corporate career and started becoming a real estate professional, that just compounds all of this stuff. So I love every bit of it.
There's a jiu-jitsu analogy in there, which people either love or hate. I haven't given them for a couple years, but I'll go back. I was talking to Huron Gracie about when you're new in jiu-jitsu. And he said one of the things his family learned is that you want to purposely put yourself in situations that are bad and then figure out how to escape from them. Right? And here's what he said. If you find yourself in a good position, you will be afraid to go for the submission because if you miss it, you're off balance and now you get swept and now you're in the bad position. So you get the good position and you just try to hold what you got. You're like afraid to go to finish the fight. But the guys that know, if I get mounted, if he takes my back, I'll just get out of it. I do it all the time. It's not a big deal for me. They have the courage or the comfort to go for a submission. Your offense actually improves when you know your defense can hold. And I just thought about what you were saying. If you know, if I take this thing back, I know what to do with it, you're not afraid to lend money. But what if you don't know what to do with it if you get it? Now you're on the hopium. I don't know. I got analysis paralysis. I'm scared. You're feeling all these emotions. And these dumb gurus will say, you just got to get through it. You just got to ignore it. And then people go lose their money because that emotion was there for a reason. You should be feeling anxiety. You don't know what you're doing. What you do is you build the fundamentals that we're missing, and then the anxiety goes away on its own.
Yep. So speaking of the Gracies, have you read the 32 Principles?
No, I haven't read it, but I love it. It's kind of similar to what's in this book.
You got to read it. It's written. Everything is. It makes the analogy from like positions in jiu-jitsu. I mean, it gets pretty deep in jiu-jitsu, but to the business world in real life, it is fantastic. I know you are into that, so that's a good book. And then another book is everything is figure outable. I don't know if you've read that, but that goes to this mindset of through reps and through experience, you build the confidence of knowing that no matter what happens, I'm confident that I can figure this out, or I have resources to figure this out. And that speaks exactly the jiu-jitsu analogy is I can take this risk. I can go after it because whatever comes of it, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to stay calm and I know who to call or I know what to do to figure this out. And that's the same thing.
And it was like that when I was a cop. When I was a new cop, bad call, bad guy. I know that's bad news. My anxiety levels were just, my heart's pounding, right? You get into a couple of them, if he does A, I do B. I got C on the way. I got these tools. I can say this thing. All of a sudden, I calm way down. And you can get in pretty gnarly scenarios and stay really calm when if I come across this, I'll just do that. In the beginning, you don't know it. And I'm going to give some advice that probably flies in the face of what almost everybody else hears on YouTube today. I think we need more apprentices. I think we need more people working for free. Okay. The way that certain political figures will steal your vote is they tell you what you deserve that you haven't earned. Okay. The concept of minimum wage itself, this is going to ruffle some feathers. It's kind of silly. Because what happens is if an owner goes, I don't think you're worth $20 an hour. That's minimum wage in California. But they would have paid you 10, but you're not worth 20. They just don't hire you at all. So minimum wage kept you from ever getting in. And when minimum wage is really comfortable, you don't have that desire to work hard and learn more to go higher. I like the idea of working for someone for free. I like the idea of proving to them that you have value before they cut you into a deal or you do something valuable. Because when you do that, you develop these skills we're talking about. You learn what to do in the bad situations because they're right there to show you. You're helping them in their bad situations, and you're kind of subconsciously learning, when I have this problem, I do this thing that I just watched that guy do. It's like going on a ride along with a cop for a year of your life, learning everything. You learn the radio codes. You learn the way the car works. You heard the things that cop said when he got in that bad situation. You saw the way they wrote their reports. Now you're going to go to the academy to be a cop. You get an advantage over every human being. You're so comfortable. You're so confident. You're learning things quickly. Your brain's not overloaded with all this information like when you're brand new. You don't have the shock. This would be such a better method to get people who want to learn something involved is to say, you want to learn how to be a real estate agent? Go be that real estate agent's assistant. Put all their property in the MLS, put all their open house signs out, give them all the support that they need, learn how marketing works, learn how social, all the stuff you'd be doing, you go do for someone else. And then you're ready when the time comes. Same for investors. There's this disease that we have of what I deserve. And it's not helping you like you think it's helping you.
Yeah, and there's no better example I can think of that is a common connection between you and I than our buddy Chris Lloyd. So Chris is someone, I don't know exactly the details of how you guys connected, but he stepped up and he offered some type of value initially. And then you saw something in him, y'all connected, and now like he's rolling. He is blowing what he's doing up, but that started with him. I would imagine, I haven't talked in depth with him about this, but he went in with the mindset of how can I produce some value to this person, and instead of the mindset of like a lot of people I would imagine you meet are trying to consume value from you right out of the gate.
Oh,
Right? He's coming with the producer's mindset that you saw was real and it was authentic. And he worked whatever he did in your organization initially, and that has evolved to where he's a powerhouse in this market very quickly. So
yeah, and I'll tell you this, like, I don't normally share this kind of stuff, but that relationship is not profitable for me at this point, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be.
Right.
I'm not even asking how much money Chris can make me. I'm focusing on my relationship with Chris. Does he listen when I give him something to do? Does he pick it up quickly? Is he getting loyal is kind of a cheesy word, but like, are we building a friendship and a relationship where I don't have to worry and he doesn't have to worry about being burned by the other person? That's a foundation that's being laid. It doesn't go up. It doesn't look profitable, but the deeper of a foundation that you get, the higher you'll be able to scale when the time comes and the time is right. That's a great example of the apprentice relationship that I think people need to build. Like, it doesn't start off making you money in the beginning because no one's good at anything. You don't have that. But if you can build that foundation, build that knowledge, get those fundamentals, get that confidence, find a way, like you said, to be valuable, you're guaranteed to make money. It is impossible to not make money once you have those things in place.
Right. And a lot of people, will say when people actually lead that way and get in those relationships, maybe with somebody that has a little more influence, oh, he got lucky. No, he didn't get lucky.
Yeah.
He worked his ass off to pardon my language, but he worked his butt off to foster a relationship and provide some value. Nobody sees that. They just say, oh, he got connected to David Greene and now he's blowing up. No, Chris is working his butt off. And because he did so, someone that has a reach has, you know, afforded him the opportunity that he worked really hard to earn, you know, and that is, it frustrates me when people say, oh, he got lucky. He connected with the right person and that person's taking him under his wing. That's what it's all about. That's exactly how it's supposed to work, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll give you this is my favorite thing to talk about. I think our country has kind of wandered away. I don't know where you stand on spiritual things, but we've wandered away from God. We've gotten out of the way he intended for things to work. And we've been bought by this socialistic lie that you can have it without deserving it. I see a lot of women that will complain, well, that guy loves his wife so much. How come you don't love me like that? You're not seeing everything you just mentioned about what that woman did. She stood with that guy when he wasn't successful. She believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. She served him and she supported him and she spoke life into that guy when he was doubting himself. Now that he's doing good, of course he has these feelings of love and affection for that woman. Right. She earned it, right? But we watch Hallmark movies and we just say, I'm just looking for the guy who's going to love me like that. And it happens with men too. Well, how come my wife's not into me? How come she's not attracted to me? Did you put the work in to be the kind of guy that she could be attracted to? Or did you just think it was supposed to show up at your front door? So these principles, going back to that, whether it's the 10 ways you make money in real estate, the 32 principles of jiu-jitsu, the things we're talking about, they will work in every part of your life. It just starts with looking at yourself and saying, do I need more humility? Do I need to have lower expectations of what I think I deserve? Am I looking for the deal that just stands out and falls in my lap and it's got $100K of equity and I think I deserve that? Or am I willing to go put the work in and build the tools and develop the goggles and develop the relationship that I want to have the life that you really want?
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. David, you've talked about the book a little bit. Give folks the title. Is it out yet?
Oh yeah, it's out. You can buy it on Amazon.
Okay, and what's the title again?
Better Than Cash Flow: The 10 Ways You Make Money in Real Estate.
All right, we're going to drop a link in the show notes. We're also going to, if folks didn't know who you were before listening to this, which I can't imagine there's a lot of folks that will link your podcast and stuff, because you talk about this stuff and other topics on a weekly basis. So I want to invite people to go check that out. And, you know, I started this thing off with how much of an influence you have. And it's very clear for folks that are listening, if they didn't know it before, you have, and I'm not trying to blow your head, which we talked about how big your head is before you started this thing, but I'm not trying to blow it up anymore. But you articulate things with so much authenticity that, like, you just went through a lot of topics, 10 topics that people can listen to, dive further into, and you did it in a way that was very clear and concise. And I just appreciate that about you and about Brandon. Now, I was, Brandon had a big influence with the way his communication style was on a lot of things I did and a lot of folks. But I thank you for that. You don't have to take the time to sit here with me. This is a brand new podcast and we're trying to get things going. And it just, to your point, you said earlier, like with Chris, you're not making any money sitting down here with me. You're just passing on. You're in the legacy building phase right now, and this is a part of it. I thank you for that.
Thanks, Jason. It's really nice of you to say, man. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you visiting Virginia. Look forward to seeing you in a couple days at our meetup. And David, this has been phenomenal. And thanks again.
Thanks, Jason. Enjoy your kids' ball game.
All right. Have a good one, man. That wraps up this episode of the Dealmaker Catalyst. If you want to keep learning from elite operators and plug into a national community that lives this stuff every day, check out Dealmaker Catalyst. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's serious about leveling up. And we'll see you on the next Dealmaker Catalyst.